Hello, hello, hello! Welcome back to the Feel Good Factor. I'm Susmita Veganosaurus and I'm so glad you could join me here today. Hi everyone! Today I'm super excited about my guest, Chef Leslie Durso. The reason she is so special is because she was one of the very first beginning influences which led me to run my podcast today. So I listened to Leslie's interview on a different podcast and I was so inspired by her because everything she does is something that I've always dreamt of doing, traveling, being a chef. That really inspired me. And then I started to follow Leslie, and that led me to Ali's podcast, Food Heals Nation. And well, yeah, the story is history from there because that's what led me on this whole path of running my podcast today. Leslie is a vegan chef in the US, and one of the many projects she works on is she's a chef at the Four Seasons in Mexico. I can't wait for all of you to get to know this lovely lady. Hey, Leslie. So, where are you right now during this lockdown?
I'm at home in Los Angeles, California.
And how are things?
Things are great considering I'm supposed to be on a big 5-week trip right now around the world. But yeah, things are fantastic. I've been developing and working a ton in the kitchen and just trying to make the best of all of this time.
Okay, so have you been doing a lot, have you been focusing a lot on cooking and developing recipes only, or are there other things that you're doing? So are there other hobbies or other interests that you're pursuing right now?
Yeah, I definitely have got a couple projects that I'm putting together right now that I'll have to stay top secret for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm really taking the time to cook a lot, create new recipes. I'm also doing a lot of video content for social media, which is something that I didn't have that much time for before, but now I do. So every Monday, I'm doing Meatless Monday videos. And then every Sunday, I'm doing cooking live classes so people can get the ingredients and cook along with me. And it's been so fun.
Oh, yeah. I've been following you on Instagram and seeing that you're doing a lot of live videos. It's so inspiring. And of course, you make it look like so much fun to do. And I bet there are a lot of people who are actually following those recipes and trying it out right now because there is no time like the present where everybody's at home and either they have a lot of free time, but even if they don't, most of them have to cook for themselves. So it's a blessing to be able to make healthy, delicious recipes at home. Even non-vegan people, because of your recipes, they would be making plant-based or vegan food.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so wonderful that people are in the kitchen right now and cooking and learning how to cook and experimenting with new recipes. I think it's really going to be wonderful in the long run.
Mm-hmm, yeah. I was just reminiscing recently, especially when Italy went down, right? So they were the first to shut down. It is less than a year ago that I was with you in Italy and we were enjoying the place and the beauty.
Yes, that's where we met for the first time. It was so fun.
Mm-hmm. So fun in a lovely setting, and everything was just wonderful in the Food Hills retreat. So let's talk a little bit about the retreats. What inspired you to start doing them?
Well, it really just came out of that. I travel a lot for work and then also for pleasure. It's where I get so much of my inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And I am Italian and I've always spent a lot of time in Italy. And so many people just started asking me, first friends and then followers, that they would love to come with me. And so I one summer said, oh, maybe I'll just put together a little group of people to come. And that turned into hosting yearly retreats there. I've been doing it for almost 10 years.
Wow. And of course, you're a pro at it, as we could see while we were on the retreat. It's nice that you go to the same place again and again every year, multiple times sometimes, right, in the year. And that makes you a part of that town, a part of that setting. So we get that kind of an experience when we come there. We feel like, we are part of the town, and the kind of welcome is very different from, say, going with a tour group.
Exactly. I mean, I never wanted it to feel like it was a tour group. I never wanted to put everybody in a bus and drive them around. That's not my style. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you're right. If you go back and you look at the pictures from your Instagram of the trip or mine, you'll see that I just love that creating a home away from home and creating friends away from home. So, yes, the town of Ravello is one of my favorite places on earth. And I'm so happy that I get to share it with so many people.
That is exactly what it was, like home away from home, friends away from home.
Yeah, actually, one gal who came on a retreat years ago just got married in Ravello.
Oh, wow. See,
Yeah.
that is like a deep connection.
Yeah, she fell so in love with the city that she went back and got married there.
Wow, that's beautiful. And it's a very romantic place, so I can definitely picture that happening.
Yeah, it is such a romantic place. It's such a perfect place to get married.
So, you were saying that the retreats were a result of you loving to travel for work and for pleasure. How did you start traveling for work? How did that come about?
Well, I kind of have always traveled for work. My very first career was as a model. And so I would work all over the place doing that. And then I was an actor. And then I was a television host. Travel was always a little bit part of my work and my business. And then when I became a chef, it was so important to me to learn cuisine because there was no vegan culinary school when I became a vegan chef. I instead decided to travel the world and work in restaurants and take internships and learn everything I could from on the job. So I traveled all over the place. I basically said, okay, what are my favorite cuisines? Those are the places I'm going to go and learn how to cook.
Wow, that's an inspiring way to learn. And it's interesting what you said that there was no culinary school, but you found your own way to go and learn and do things. And the podcast interview that I listened to you for the first time, even on that you said this, and I was like mind blown. I'm sure it took a lot of effort and planning to find chefs that you'd want to go work with, learn with, or even connect with them and have them allow you into the kitchen. Because you, as a chef, know that you won't just allow anyone to come into your kitchen to whether do an internship or to work with you, not as easily, right? So it
Right.
takes a lot of trust gaining before you are welcomed into another chef's kitchen. So, how did you go about connecting with those people? How did you go about convincing them to take you on as an intern, especially in the very beginning where you didn't really have an experience yet?
Sure. Well, it was a couple different ways. Some of them I reached out to through social media. Basically, I would just find the best restaurants in the cities that I wanted to go to. And I was very lucky from my previous career that I had a lot of airline miles. And so I was able to afford to do this because I wasn't working full time at the time when I was traveling around doing this. And it was extended over years, period. But I would reach out to people online
Hmm.
and then sometimes when I would get to a city, I would go to a restaurant and I would just totally fall in love with it. And I would just ask to speak to the chef and, start a conversation, start a relationship, and then see if they would take me to the market, see if I could cook with them, see if they'd teach me. And a lot of times when you tell people you'll work for free, they will say yes. Because everybody needs extra help. So it's always helpful to be able to tell people that you'll come work for free.
That is true, and I do agree with that for doing things on the outside, whether it is service or billing or digital marketing or anything. But with the kitchen, it's still like a new person in the mix can be disruptive. What you mentioned about developing a relationship, that's what would have really paid off. Then they know you and they trust you enough, even if it's for a short while that they've known you, they trust you enough to say, okay, yeah, I don't think you will be disruptive in my kitchen. Please come on.
Absolutely.
What made you want to become a vegan chef?
Well, I always loved food and I loved cooking. Like I said, I have an Italian heritage. And so I was in the kitchen at a very young age. And I always loved food. I stopped eating meat when I was 7 years old. And so I did a lot of cooking as a child and growing up and learning from my mom and figuring out how to eat. Because, when I was a kid, there were no vegan restaurants or vegetarian restaurants, it was just regular restaurants. And so it was really important for me to learn how to cook for myself since I had made that decision. But then it was much later in life. I was hosting a TV show, a science show, co hosting, And my co-host said to me, you should really do food after this when our show is coming to an end. So you should really do food because all you do is talk about food and you're so well versed on it. You should really just get into the food space.
Mhm.
And so I said, yeah, okay. So I thought about hosting a food television show. And every time I talked to somebody at a network, they said, well, okay, but you're not a chef. But you're not a chef. You're not a chef. And I was like, all right, dang it. I'm going to go become a chef. So I did.
Cool. So that means we can expect your television cooking series soon?
I've been thinking about it a lot. I think I would love to go back to TV and do another series. I still do a lot of
Mhm.
TV content here in the States. I do a lot of segments on different shows, but it would be very interesting to do my own show again. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of my dreams too, to do a vegan television series here. That would be so good, such a great way to reach a lot of people, especially when you have a passion for cooking the way you do. I'm sure it's going to come off really well. So I'm very excited. I do hope you're able to do that really, really soon.
Oh, thank you. I hope you do too.
Thank you. Leslie, how old were you when you turned vegan?
Well, I always say I was 7 years old when I went plant based because at 7 years old, I wasn't reading labels and my mom was like kind of annoyed with me. So I was always vegan ish. I didn't drink milk or eat eggs, but I didn't know that there were eggs in cookies and milk in bread. And so
Mm.
I wasn't exactly vegan at 7 years old. But when I became an adult and I started realizing that obviously these ingredients were in these packaged foods. Then I stopped eating them as I went, but I didn't get really, really strict about it until about probably like 12 years ago, where I was just like adamant about, asking every waiter what was in everything and
Mm.
making sure every piece of bread was vegan and, really checking on everything. Where before I didn't necessarily, especially when I was traveling, it was kind of like, oh, okay, I'll have the naan, but as you know, naan usually has yogurt in it. And so I didn't always know those things.
What inspired you to, at 7 years, that's a very, very young age. So at that age, what inspired you to, at least in your heart, want to be vegan?
I just never really liked meat and I never really agreed with it. My mom will tell you that even as a very small child, she could never get me to eat meat ever. She'd put a bunch of food on my plate at a very young age, and I would eat all the peas and the carrots and the potatoes, and I would never eat the meat pieces. And they practically had to force me to eat them. It was almost like something inside me just said, this is just wrong. I don't want it. And then when I was 7 years old, someone at school had told me what a vegetarian was. And I was so ecstatic that there were people that didn't eat meat in the world and that was an acceptable thing. And so I ran home and I told my parents that I was a vegetarian. And they were like, oh, great. The word vegan, I mean, it did exist, but it didn't exist in my universe. And so, again, like I said, I never liked milk and I never liked eggs. And so I wasn't eating those things to my knowledge. But yeah, I was a very hard-headed kid and it just, it really upset me and I always put it together. We had a couple dogs growing up and my dad was a big fisherman and so I loved the dogs and I would never want to eat the dogs and then I would see my dad come home with these fish, these whole fish and then they'd cut it up and I was just so sad about it.
Mm.
And I just made this connection that I didn't want to eat that. I didn't want to be part of it and I just didn't yeah, I just knew that the death of an animal was never going to be part of something I was okay with.
Wow. At the young age, I know it's not easy to stand up to everybody around you and still insist on not having these products. That's really, really cool that you were able to do that. I think, that kind of a determination is what has led you even through your life where you're doing one thing and then you're like, okay, I'm going to be a vegan chef and then just go and do the other thing and just putting your heart or putting your mind to something and making it happen.
Mhm.
So, how was it when you had this television career? And you said that when you started going and interning with people and traveling around and learning things, you probably didn't get to do a full time job then. So, what made you decide to leave the security of a full time job? What made you think this would pay off? This kind of an effort would pay off?
I just knew it would. My whole life, I just dive into things wholeheartedly. I go in 100%. And so there is no option of failure. So when I decided to become a vegan chef, there is no plan B. That's just what I'm going to do. And I don't stop until I do it.
Wow, that's freaking inspiring.
Well, it's really just about having the confidence that you can truly do anything that you want to do and achieve anything that you want to achieve. And if you really, truly believe that in your heart, you will be able to.
Hmm. What kind of advice would you give to people to actually start believing in themselves, in their dreams, and following it? Like, how do they go about developing this kind of a determination and this kind of a faith?
You know what? And I hate to be contrary, but it's really just hard work. It's getting up every single day and working harder than anybody else. I mean, I became a chef when I was 31 years old, way late for most people in the game. Most people become chefs straight out of high school and start working in their
Hmm.
early 20s. And so I was coming in 10 years behind everybody else. But I knew with my work ethic that I could outwork anybody. I knew that I could outlearn anybody. And I knew that with my determination, I was going to be able to get where I wanted to go in a small amount of time. And so that's really what it is that if you have a dream, no matter what the dream is, you can achieve it, no problem. But you have to be willing to sacrifice and work harder than anybody else.
That's beautiful. And it's inspiring and motivating advice for people because, yeah, I know that there is this whole thing of the law of attraction and you want something, it will come to you. But then after that, it's up to you to be open to grabbing that opportunity and making use of it, right? So that's where the working hard comes in.
Exactly. I completely agree. The universe will bring you the opportunities, but you have to be prepared to take those opportunities because they don't come around that often. I can think of instances in my life where I've seen opportunities go right past me, and I don't like that. I like being able to grab hold of every opportunity I can.
Hmm. You spoke about how you have seen opportunities go by and you don't like that. So, when something like that happens, because of course you can't grab every single opportunity, it's not easy to do that, right? So, if something like that happens and if somebody sees an opportunity go by and they're not able to grab it or do anything about it in that moment or fast enough, how do they not judge themselves or how do they let go? What do you say to yourself then to make yourself feel better because you said you don't like it?
Well, you just kind of have to trust and believe in the bigger picture and the reason why things are working out the way that they do. And yes, I'm someone who likes to have 30 projects going at the same time and work 24 hours a day and just push it as hard as I possibly can. And so when I've got 30 projects going and I see another really exciting thing that I could be doing, but my plate is just too full to do it, it's okay. And it's taken me a long time to just kind of realize that it is okay because all of the things that I'm doing right now are all the things I'm supposed to be doing. So if you just trust that you're exactly where you're supposed to be in that moment and all of those opportunities are the exact right ones for you, then everything's going to be okay. I really believe that.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you know how you said that you like having 30 projects on your plate and working 24 hours a day? I'm like the exact opposite. I like to take one opportunity at a time, one project at a time. I like everything to be at my own pace. I like things to be slow and steady. It doesn't have to go super fast, but I just cannot handle the feeling of being overwhelmed. And even that, I had to learn the hard way where I had to realize that, okay, you know what, this is making me feel too overwhelmed. I don't have to be juggling so many things at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So whether it is handling 3 projects and your plate is full or 30 projects and your plate is full, how do you determine that your plate is in fact full and you should not be taxing yourself more?
How much sleep I'm getting. Uh, no, no. I mean, in all realness, is like you feel it. You can feel when you're stretched too thin and when you have too many things going on, when you're not able to put the right amount of focus on each project. And luckily, my projects really coincide with each other and they usually work really well with each other. So I'm able to take on a lot.
Mhm.
But even still, I mean, I have to keep everything straight in my head. I'm fairly organized when it comes to all of that. When I do my hotel projects, I have a big binder for each one so I can keep them all separate and organized and know exactly what's happening with each project. So
Hmm.
you do have to stay very organized if you're going to take on multiple projects like that. But I always laugh because I'm a Gemini and I'm a true Gemini, and I always have to have a million things happening around me at the same time.
As long as you are able to keep things organized and keep track of things, I think that itself is like half the overwhelm removed, right?
Yep.
So you're like, okay, it's here, it's all neatly stacked up. So all you have to do is go back to that binder and refer to it. So that's very nice. I'm happy to hear about your system. So what other suggestions would you give to people to organize themselves so that they can be more productive because of being organized?
Oh my goodness. It really is an individual system that you have to find for yourself. Like I kind of created a system that works for me. But I'd say one thing that's very helpful to me is that I get up early. I didn't used to be a morning person. I used to hate getting up early. And then I started doing it, and it makes me feel so much better because then I can end the day I try and end my day if I'm at a restaurant or if I'm on property somewhere. Obviously, this doesn't happen. But if I'm at home and I'm working, I like to end my workday at 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
I like to have a cup of tea, and I like to spend my evening doing something besides work. And that was really different and difficult for me. So I realized that if I was not putting in a full day, if I was not starting my day until 10 or 11, you're not able to get that much done. But if I could start my day at 5:30 or 6 a.m., then I'd be able to get a huge amount done during the day. And then I would be able to take some time for myself at the end of the day. And so, really creating a schedule for yourself is very helpful, especially since, I mean, I'm a person, I am my own boss. I am my own company. I have my own company. So, I get to make the rules. I tell myself when to get up, what time to schedule meetings, what time to do everything. And so, it was really helpful for me to kind of create a structured work day.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense because when you are your own boss, it's even harder to create a structured workday because you let it go. You're like, okay, I'm my own boss. I can do when I want what I want, but then that isn't always going to be a productive thing. And you said that you wake up at 5:36 in the morning and you start your day. At what time do you sleep? Or like how many hours of sleep are you getting every day?
I really try and go to sleep before 10 p.m. I know that sounds crazy.
No, no. If you're waking up at 5.
Yeah, so I do. I wake up at about 5. I go to sleep before 10 and I wake up about 5, 5:30.
Yeah, so then that doesn't sound crazy that you're sleeping at 10. If I had to wake up at 5, I would like force myself to be in bed by 8 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly. But it feels so good to go to sleep that early. I really love it.
I'm not at all a morning person. I'm a night owl. To some extent, I had kind of resolved things to, okay, not too late, but being up by 8 a.m. and then starting my day and so on. But then, ever since the lockdown, it's kind of become worse, and I'm not up before 11 a.m. And, I don't schedule anything for the first half of my day, at least until 1, 2 o'clock. I'm like, okay, everybody, leave me alone. I'm not coming to your webinars. I'm not going to do anything. But after that, I do stuff. But the fact that you said that you used to also be a night owl, but somehow switching to being a morning person, because I know a lot of people who are morning people by nature, by default, but this is something that you have practiced and
Yeah.
made yourself do, right? You have turned yourself into a morning person. That kind of gives me hope that maybe sometime in the future I could also be a morning person if I put my mind to it.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I was such a night owl. I would always stay up all night long. I mean, I wouldn't go to bed until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I get up around 10 and again, like you're saying, like start my day, but then I couldn't talk to anybody or see anybody. And then, the day's half over. And I just wasn't being as productive as I knew I could be. And so I just very gradually started doing it. I'd set my alarm 15 minutes earlier every day, and I would try and go to bed 15 minutes earlier every night. And I feel like 15 minutes is an easy thing. If you can go to bed at midnight, you can go to bed at 11:45.
Hmm.
And so I just started inching it until I got to a place that felt really good and very productive.
Cool. That's a nice hack. Doing 15 minutes at a time, that doesn't sound so bad. It's not like last night I slept at midnight or 1 a.m. and tonight I have to sleep at 9 and then wake up at 5.
Yeah, that's so much to ask your body to do. I mean, that's just crazy. Your
Mm-hmm.
body is going to be in such shock if you try and if you're used to going to sleep at midnight and all of a sudden you start trying to go to sleep at 9 o'clock, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
You're just going to lay in bed tossing and turning.
Mm.
But if you do those small increments, I think it's very helpful.
That sounds like a really nice idea. I think I can put that into practice. What do you do when you're on projects though? Because restaurant, as we know, chef's hours are not at all like what you're talking about. Nobody starts early, everybody starts late, and then they go on till late in the night.
Well, that's not really true for me and what I do. So, since I do the training with the chefs on property, so I actually train them during the day and we finish before the dinner rush starts.
Okay.
So I am up early and working with them all day long and then I finish at about 4 before dinner starts.
I see. Okay, that's cool. So you don't have to be there during the service hours, during the dinner hour. You finish the training in advance and then you can sign off for the day and they take care of being there during the dinner hours.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I do a lot of events at night, but again, I really try and wrap them up quickly. I try and have my assistants with me, and I try and have my sous chefs with me so I can do the event
Mhm.
and then leave at a timely hour.
Again, it's an example of because you want your life to be a certain way, because you want these hours, things kind of work out around you. The universe will make it work out around you because you have this intention like, okay, I have to wake up early, I have to sleep early, I have to sign off at this time. And it's working out for you, and that's beautiful. Again, it shows that, okay, you put in your intention, you set these hours. And yeah, even if somebody is waking up later or doing things later, even then, as long as there's a very, very clear intention of doing things, of scheduling things and planning, everything else kind of sets itself up around that particular intention that you have. So that's great.
Exactly.
So, Leslie, tell me, when can I come and intern with you?
Oh, anytime you want, as soon as we're able to again.
Oh, wow. That would be great. I would love to. I don't have miles, but I'm going to save up and I'm going to fly out to you and I want to come and study with you, learn from you. You're freaking inspiring.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to everybody before we sign off?
Oh, I just want to say hello to everybody in India. I love Indian cuisine is one of my favorites on earth. And actually, the last meal that I had out before the lockdown happened was dosas.
Oh, wow. Nice.
I love dosas. They're one of my favorites. And I know those are Southern Indian cuisine, but
Mhm.
I love Indian food so much. And so, yeah, I just want to say hi to everybody in India.
Well, it makes my heart very happy that you had Southern Indian food because, of course, I'm from the South. So for me, these are comfort foods. These are things I love. So it makes me so happy that you enjoy South Indian food and that it's South Indian food. Forget enjoying it. People enjoy it, but not a lot of people know the difference between not just North and South Indian foods, but every state and there's so many cuisines here in India, and to have that
Yeah.
knowledge, to be able to differentiate it, that's very, very cool.
Well, I try. I mean, I really think that it's food is such a part of the culture. So, in order to respect the culture, you need to educate yourself on the food cuisine.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see that you are very good with doing the research and respecting the cuisine and educating yourself. When we were at Italy, forget in the same country, but in the same little Ravello, you made sure that we got different styles of food and you were explaining to us that, okay, South Italy, in these parts, this is the way it is and how it's presented and how there are certain things which are in different towns. And you explained the culture of Italian cuisine. Even there, it's very similar to India, where each place, each town, each city, each area has their own different culture, different cuisine, different way of making things. So
Exactly.
it was very clear.
Oh, good. Well, it means a lot to me to be able to honor traditional dishes and where they came from and the stories behind them.
Well, once the lockdown is done and maybe next year, once your projects are done, whenever it is, I would love to have you visit me here too, and I'll take you on a vegan food tour, food hopping. We could do a retreat, whatever it is.
I would love that.
So, Leslie, can you tell everybody how they can find you, how they can connect with you online?
Absolutely. Instagram is probably the best, but I'm on all of the social medias. You can just find me. My name on everything is just Leslie Durso. So it makes it easy. And yeah, I hope I can connect with as many people as possible.
Just so everybody knows, I'm going to put it in the show notes, but I'll spell it out. It is LESLIEDURSO, Leslie Durso.
Yeah.
Find Leslie, connect with her. She's super inspiring. And yeah, watch her videos and everything. So, Leslie, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate that you made the time to be here. And I double appreciate that you woke up early in the morning so that I could do this at a time where I was actually wide awake and active.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me on. It's always so good to talk to you.
Okay, then. Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode of The Feel Good Factor, I'd really appreciate a rating, review, or subscription on your preferred podcasting platform or on podchaser.com. And as always, I would love to hear from you. Connect with me at Veganosaurus on Instagram or through my website, veganosaurus.com, www.veganosaurus.com. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Feel Good Factor. I'm Susmita Veganosaurus, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again very soon. Bye!